twice a year I do week intensives, one in the beautiful Somerset countryside near Glastonbury, which is the most sacred place in Britain, and one in London in October. And they're over the cross-quarter days, Beltane in the spring in Somerset, and All Souls Day, All Saints Day, Festival of the Dead in London. And the one that's coming up is the Healing Voice Week Intensive on the 26th of April. And this is, the first weekend is an intense induction into all the vocal yogas, vocal practices for spiritual awareness, for developing consciousness, and breathing exercises of all kind. And one of the main themes is overtone chanting, so harmonic chanting, harmonic singing, so singing on one note, and through changing the shape of the resonant cavities, amplifying the harmonics. So you hear a drone and then you hear these high flute-like tones floating above the fundamental, which is completely magical and makes people think of the music of the spheres. And it has an additional point that these intervals, these harmonics, are in tune in a way that Western music is not. Western music has been out of tune since the 17th century. So that's the weekend, and then at the end of the weekend we do a ceremony to honor the ancestors. And the ancestors have an important job description, which is to look after the living and keep the living alive, but they have no agency until the living acknowledge the ancestors and open the streams of transmission so they're able to help. Until that, they're just like clamorous children and are very annoying and tripping us up and being a nuisance. So as soon as we acknowledge the ancestors, they're there to help. So then the week part, the 5 days that follow, we do this extraordinary ceremony. So I studied Tibetan Buddhism for 45 years or so, and one of the central themes of Tibetan Buddhism is this mandala, which is the structure of consciousness. And it's really a ground plan of the stupa, which existed before the Buddha. The Buddha came late. He was a Greek statue copied and became the Buddha. He came late. So before the Buddha was this central axis which Buddhists rotated around as an aspiration towards the center. And this became the stupa, which is a round thing with an umbrella-y thing and 4 gates. And the mandala is really like a ground plan of that. And so the journey through the mandala is a rotational journey through the day, through the year, through our own afflictive emotions, through our own consciousness. And when you work with these afflictive emotions, each one flips and becomes its corresponding wisdom. So, for example, anger is the afflictive emotion of the direction of the east, which is the water element and is blue. And so when you flip this afflictive emotion into its opposite, it's mirror-like wisdom, which means seeing things as they are in a mirror. So there's no reaction. You have no hopes or fears. You have no expectations to have anything other than what is. And so there's nothing to react to. There's no disappointment. There's no nothing that gives rise to anger, frustration, or resentment. So this is an example of one of the directions. So each of these directions has its own evolution and transformation. So I've done a series of these mandalas, and the ones in the spring are, they revolve around the aspect of consciousness embodied in the goddess Tara, or the divine being Tara. Green Tara is the main one, but she has many aspects. So she's white Tara when she's about healing and transformation and longevity, or red Tara about relationships, yellow Tara about abundance, and so forth and so on. So this one that we're going to do is Green Tara, and she's lightning action, appropriate and immediate action. She exists in the element of air, green, and she's known for, a little bit like Kuan Yin, she's known for hearing the cries of our aspirations and helping us. So she helps us bring about all that we want to do with lightning and appropriate speed. And so that's the core practice. So in this case, we become Green Tara. So the best way of embodying the qualities of these beings is not to supplicate and ask for help, but actually to become them. So that's what we do in this particular practice. We become her and embody her qualities, and at the same time we work with our aspirations and the blockages to these aspirations, because each of these weeks has a different psychological component, as well as and contained in continuous chant. So it's a half-hour cycle of practice, and in the mid of that we work with all of our aspirations and all the things that block those aspirations, in the hope that we can realize them, and we do. Rolling. So this work has a very important psychological and personal component, which is that we work with, in this particular case, each one is different, but this one works with all those, so we spend time articulating and really thinking about all the things that we aspire to first become and be, and then all those things we aspire to have, all those things we aspire to have in relation to relationships, and then all those things that we aspire to do in the world. These are the 4 directions of the mandala. And so we articulate these, we really examine ourselves, and we think about what is it in ourselves that we really want. What do we really want to be, to have, to in relationships, and to do? What is it really? And then we think about and articulate in the work itself, what is blocking that? What are those things that stop us being what we want to be, having what we want to have, stopping the relationships we want to allow to flower? What is it that stops us doing what we want in the world? And so the actual psychological component of this work is going into great detail of really looking at ourselves and understanding what we want and how we're not getting it, and therefore aspiring to getting it, because when we let go of the desire to get it, we get it. And so that's what the work's about, is achieving our aspirations.